Hi, my name is Alex Bernard, Associate Editor for Top Crop Manager, and I'm speaking today with Michael McElroy, wheat breeder with Sarome in Quebec. How are you doing today, Michael?
Not too bad at all.
Glad to hear it. Could you explain a little bit about your role with Sarome?
Sure. I joined CEROM, and if anyone doesn't know, this is the Center for Grain Research of Quebec, which is a public-private institution that works on a number of different areas of research, all related to field crop production in Quebec and in Canada in general. So I joined the team in 2017 as the winter wheat breeder. So we have a mandate there to develop new varieties of hard red winter wheat for, again, the Quebec market and the Eastern Canadian market in general.
Excellent. When you're developing varieties of wheat, what is it that you are looking for, or what are the traits that are most desirable at this moment?
Well, there's three main things that we take a look at. The first one is yield. Obviously, producers are always looking for more yield, and that becomes a complicated question, especially when it comes to winter wheat, and especially in Quebec, where one of the major limitations that we have on winter wheat production is survival. So there's a selection for yield per se, the maximum that we can get out per hectare in the best of conditions. But we also really have to take a look at how well the wheat can survive, even in very adverse conditions. So very cold, or when we get these oscillating temperatures from very warm to very cold very rapidly, in order to ensure that that producers here can get the most out of this wheat that they seed. The second big thing that we take a look at is disease resistance. And the primary concern for us is Fusarium head blight. So this is a devastating disease across Canada, but again, particularly in Eastern Canada, that affects the grains of wheat, and not only can reduce yields, but produce mycotoxins that are toxic to both humans and animals. So it's something that we take very seriously, and we're very lucky to have some very good germplasm that is resistant to that we inherited from an Agriculture Canada program that unfortunately went defunct a number of years ago. But we're taking that material and moving along and trying to integrate better traits into that so they can be both fusarium resistant and agronomically pleasing as well. So yes, we spend a lot of time doing that. We use molecular markers to be able to select efficiently for that, but we also test in a fusarium nursery. So this is an inoculated nursery that's under irrigation. So we can really see under the worst kinds of conditions how these plants will react. And finally, we do have to meet quality parameters as well. So as I mentioned before, we're looking at hard red winter wheat. So this is ones that can be used to produce bread. So we have to make sure that the stuff that we produce has the right qualities, particularly in gluten, to be able to do that. And sort of going beyond the baseline level, there's a number of millers in Quebec that are interested in getting wheats that are of a specific quality for particular kinds of breads, like baguettes and crusty breads and things that are very traditionally have been made with winter wheat. So we like to work closely with some of those millers to be able to make sure that we're developing the kind of varieties that they'll be able to use as end users as well. So yeah, that's in general what our goals are for the program.
It's exciting, and it's working with the end users in that way. I imagine you get a different idea of what people might want. Like they probably want certain things that the growers will like, but there might be the different different priorities.
No, that's a very good question. I mean, obviously their interest is in the quality because that's their business. But I mean, they're very conscious as well that, if they want to see these varieties grown, so they can be able to do that local purchasing, They need to have something that is that works well for producers, that works well for end users, and in the end works well for consumers. So it is really a group effort, and we really try to include everyone that we can within that whole sort of value chain to make sure that we're not producing anything that is going to fall flat at some level. And there's a good cooperative spirit, I think, among all our stakeholders in terms of trying to get just the best varieties out there for everyone.
That's awesome. And a collaborative process means you have more feedback. So it's not just like hearing one thing or the other.
Exactly, exactly.
Um, Now, have there been any interesting developments in the past couple of years, or is there anything coming down the pipeline that you think growers would benefit from knowing about?
Well, I mean, we're constantly putting out new lines. There are a few that are going to be coming up for possible registration later, actually in just a couple of weeks, next week, in fact.
Oh,
So we'll get back to you on that. In terms of changes to the actual program, um, we've been trying to integrate more new technologies to be able to move our selection process along much more efficiently than traditional kind of breeding, while still keeping that as well. So everything in breeding is always about speed and efficiency. How much genetic gain can you get for every cycle? How fast can you advance things? And one of the ways that we can help move that forward is through the use of genomics. So this is an area that we're trying to integrate right now into our program, where essentially we've gone in and taken a set of lines, so of genotypes of wheats that represent the program. We've tested them extensively across a number of environments and for a number of different parameters, and then we've genotyped all of them. So we've gotten information from them from across the entire genome, which we can use to construct models, which will predict not only what the lines in this kind of panel that we've used can do, but also theoretical lines or lines that we haven't actually tested yet. So if we cross a couple of lines from the panel that we have and get new lines that are out before we even put them into the field, we can genotype them again and see which ones have the greatest potential as potential new varieties. So this is it's a very exciting time because the cost of genotyping and the speed at which we can do it is increasing all the time. And yeah, we can really advance the just how fast we can go and respond more quickly to the needs of producers, which especially in these times where climate is changing, markets are changing so fast. It's important to be able to have a program that is flexible and responsive to the needs of producers. So it's a very exciting time for us.
yeah. It sounds like that would really speed up the process. And like you say, with things changing as fast as they are, you don't really have the time to spend on like figuring out which exact type will do the best in which situation. Well, like you say, speed has always been a desirable thing.
Yeah, it's good to have a combination of both because nothing can replace actually testing stuff in the field. You want to make sure that what you have is definitely the best that you can. But when you start with, I mean, literally thousands of different lines that you produce, you can't test them all. So either you pick what you know based on the pedigree of the line or information you have, or you can take a genomics approach and say, let's concentrate on these ones that really have the highest potential. And then let's go out and confirm what we think we know from the models and get the best that we can out of that.
Excellent. Now, you mentioned climate change, and I know that in some cases, like chemical MRLs or maximum residue limits affect like the end use or the markets that they can go to. Does that play a role? I imagine with fusarium, that might play a role with. I could be off again, but does that play a tool on your breeding? Like, I know that's probably more of a grower or an end use thing rather than a plant breeding thing.
Well, if you mean in terms of inputs that are being put
Yeah.
onto, yeah, I mean, this is something that we do keep in mind because, I mean, one, it's obviously, important with, climate, like you said, with climate change and with changes that we're going to have to be able to make to our agricultural production systems to be able to sort of keep in line with a lower carbon footprint. These are important things. We want to make sure that we're providing um, producers with the best kind of tools that they can have to be able to meet those. So part of that fits in well with stuff that we're already doing, um, which is breeding for disease resistance, because it's really the best way to be able to prevent these kind of problems in the field and reduce the amount of inputs that you have to use. Because if you're going with obviously a variety that has is sensitive to fusarium head blight, for example, you really have to compensate for that by going out and spraying at the right moments, and sometimes multiple times. If you have that strong genetic resistance and you know that that is going to safeguard you, you can reduce the amount of interventions that you have to do, which is going to reduce the amount of inputs that you have to put on, and also the amount of time that you have to spend, applying those things, and the fuel that it takes to be able to do that, which is not as consequential either.
Mhm.
In terms of other fertilizer inputs, we try to test in the kind of conditions that most producers are using. So we do try to make sure that the level of nitrogen, for example, is pretty much what most producers are going to be using. But at the same time, we like to be able to take some of the lines that we're testing and also test them under low input conditions. Whether that's for the organic market, which can work, but also just in a general sense to see how they react. Because if there are certain genotypes that are showing up that we could say, hey, it does okay under conventional, but under low, it actually stays pretty stable. Whereas other ones, they might really need that nitrogen to be able to get up to where they are, and without it, they fall kind of flat. So just by keeping those things in the pipeline, in the program, we know that we have that genetic variability there should we need it. And, as trends change, and if low input becomes a more important kind of market, that's the kind of thing that we can say, well, we have that in the toolbox that we can use. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
No, that was perfect. Thank you for following along with my
No
my
worries.
half-formed tangents. Um, is there anything else you'd like to share, or because my questions are done?
Oh boy. I mean, just in general, I'd like to thank some of the major funders that we have for the work that I'm doing. So that is the Quebec grain producers, the PGQ, as they are known here, and also CCAN. We're both funders of the program that I'm doing, and also I'll give a little shout out to the Quebec Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, the MAPAC, which contributes also to the CEROM and to many of the programs that help finance our projects. So yeah,
keep funding the good work.
please do.